Gun shops don't feel like war zones anymore. The panic buying era that stripped shelves bare from 2020 through 2022 is over, and what replaced it is something dealers didn't fully see coming: stagnant inventory. Specific models are sitting in display cases longer than expected, getting tagged with rebates, and collecting dust while the foot traffic walks right past them. This isn't about bad guns. It's about bad timing, bruised reputations, and a market that got brutally picky once the frenzy died down. Here are 7 guns you're seeing everywhere in 2026, and the real story behind why they're not moving. Taurus GX4. The Taurus GX4 is probably the clearest example of how fast consumer confidence can evaporate. This one didn't slow down because of price or competition. Alone, it slowed down because Taurus published an official safety notice stating that some GX4 pistols assembled and sold in the U.S. made this charge when dropped. That's not a rumor somebody posted on a forum. That's the manufacturer, in writing, telling owners to unload the gun and stop using it until they verify their serial number, when that's a headline attached to a product. The damage follows it around like a shadow. On paper, the GX4 is a competent micro-compact. It runs a 3.06-inch barrel, ships with 11-round flush fit and 13-round extended magazine options, sits on a polymer frame, and carries a street price that regularly undercuts the big names in the Micro 9 segment. The ergonomics are workable. The slide serrations give you a decent purchase, and for the money, it checks most of the boxes a carry gun needs to check. But the Micro 9 market is merciless. Buyers in this category are already swimming in options: the SIG P365, the Springfield Hellcat, the SW Shield Plus, and every single one of those platforms has a clean track record with 0 discharge-related safety notices attached. So when a shopper walks up to the counter and asks about the GX4, the next question is almost always, is this the recalled one? And that hesitation is enough. They pivot. The GX4 sits. If you already own one, the move is simple: run the serial on the official Taurus safety site and follow their process. Taurus does inspect and repair affected pistols at no cost. If you're shopping used, only touch it if the seller can document that the gun was checked and cleared under the safety notice. And if the price isn't noticeably better than a comparable Micro 9 from a brand that doesn't carry that baggage, it's an easy pass. Street price, approximately $300,350. Kimber R7 Mako. The Kimber R7 Mako had momentum when it launched, and it deserved some of it. Kimber coming into the micro-compact space with a purpose-built carry gun was worth paying attention to. Then, in 2022, a safety recall dropped and the momentum went with it. The recall covered specific serial number ranges and involved a potential sear engagement issue that could allow the pistol to fire without the trigger being pulled. That is exactly the kind of headline that doesn't fade. The specs on the Mako aren't a problem. It runs a 3.37-inch barrel, offers 11-round flush and 13-round extended magazine configurations, ships in optics-ready variants with factory milled slide, and the trigger pull is cleaner than most guns in this size class. The grip geometry fits a wide range of hand sizes. The slide serrations front and rear give you real purchase during press checks and administrative handling. And the overall fit and finish reflects what you'd expect from Kimber at this price point. Mechanically, after Kimber corrected affected pistols, the platform is sound. The problem is that consumer memory doesn't reset on the same timeline as a factory repair program. People carrying a gun every single day are not looking for novelty. They want a platform with a track record. So clean, it's boring. The SIG P365, the Hellcat, and the Shield Plus all offer exactly that: years of documented reliability, law enforcement adoption in some cases, and an aftermarket ecosystem deep enough to keep enthusiasts busy for years. The Mako, even after the recall was resolved, still walks into every gun store carrying that history. Dealers feel it in the form of heavier rebates and longer case time. It's not a bad gun. It's a gun that got its launch story written for it before it had a chance to write its own. Street price, approximately $599,699. Canik MC9. Early 2023, the Canik MC9 had real heat behind it. Shops were moving them fast because Canik triggers have a reputation, and the price point undercut most of the Micro 9 field by a noticeable margin. The spec sheet read like a value play that actually made sense: 3.18-inch barrel, 12-round flush and 15-round extended magazine options, optics ready slide straight from the factory, compact footprint, and ergonomics that felt more refined than the price tag suggested. For a budget-conscious buyer who wanted a carry gun with a good trigger out of the box, the MC9 looked like a cheat code. Then the range reports started coming in. Return to battery failures. Failures to feed. The slide not completing the cycle cleanly, especially with lighter 115 grain practice ammo. The pattern that kept surfacing pointed to the recoil spring assembly. In a micro compact running a short 3.18-inch barrel with a light slide mass, spring rate tolerance is critical. If the recoil spring is even slightly over-tensioned, the slide doesn't have enough energy from softer loads to travel fully rearward and strip the next round cleanly off the mag. The result is exactly what owners were reporting: inconsistent cycling that erodes confidence fast. Sentry Arms and Canic did respond. Updated recoil spring assemblies were sent out. Warranty turnaround was generally handled without much friction. Owners who installed a revised RSA or switched to hotter 124 grain loads reported the gun smoothing out considerably. From a pure engineering standpoint, it was a solvable launch problem, not a fundamental design flaw. But in the Micro 9 world, that distinction barely matters. The segment is that brutal. If a buyer hears early reliability problems attached to a carry gun, they don't wait for the fix. They walk over to the P365 display, put their car down, and go home with something that already has a million-round reputation behind it. What you see sitting on shelves in 2026 isn't a broken gun. It's a gun that stumbled at the worst possible moment in the most competitive handgun category in America. Once carry gun confidence takes a hit, it takes a long time to earn back. Street price, approximately $349,429. Daniel Defense DDM 4v7. The Daniel Defense DDM 4v7 doesn't sit because it's a weak rifle. It sits because the math changed on buyers once the panic buying era ended. During the 2020-2022 run, people were grabbing whatever was on the shelf. Now they're standing in front of a 9002 100 MSRP tag with a clear head, doing the comparison quietly in their mind: a DDM 4v7 or an Aero Precision or PSA build, a quality optic, 2 cases of 5.56, and still walking out with money left over. For the average range shooter, that second option wins. That's not a knock on what Daniel Defense is actually delivering with this rifle. The DDM 4v7 runs a cold hammer forged 16-inch barrel, a mid-length gas system that produces a softer, more controllable recoil impulse compared to a standard carbine length 6-inch gas tube setup, a properly staked gas key, and an MLOK free float handguard that give you full rail real estate without the bulk of older quad rail systems. Fit and finish on a DDM 4 consistently runs tighter than most rack-grade ARs. The mid-length dwell time means the bolt carrier group isn't getting hammered as hard per round, which translates to longer component life and a smoother shooting rhythm over extended range sessions. This is a rifle built to run hard on standard 5.56 NATO pressure loads with minimal fuss. The timing problem is what it is. Gun demand normalized after the 2020 peak, and the industry overordered during the rush. When sales slowed, premium rifles stacked up first because most people already own an AR, and the buyers who don't are shopping on price, not on cold hammer forging specs. Dealers started discounting to move units. Then buyers started expecting discounts. And once that cycle starts, the premium rack starts looking a lot like the clearance rack. The DDM 4v7 is worth the price for anyone who runs their rifle hard and wants a platform that will outlast most of what's on the market. But in 2026, worth the price and moving off shelves are 2 different conversations. Street price, approximately $7,002-100. CZ Scorpion Evo 3. The CZ Scorpion Evo 3 pistol got caught in a storm it didn't cause. When the ATF dropped the pistol brace rule in 2023, the brace PCC market froze almost overnight. Buyers stopped touching brace pistol format carbines because nobody wanted to purchase a gun and immediately get tangled in legal paperwork questions. Dealers felt it fast. Owners who already had brace setups either registered them, converted them to rifle configuration, or dumped them into the used market, and that wave of used Scorpions hit the secondary market hard, undercutting new gun prices in a way that took a long time to absorb. The Scorpion Evo 3 runs a 7.72-inch barrel in pistol configuration, feeds from 20-round magazines, operates on a straight blowback 9mm action, and has a manual safety setup that works well once you're familiar with controls. The platform is reliable. It runs. That part was never really in question. What became a real talking point once buyers started comparing options side by side is the recoil impulse. Straight blowback in a 9mm platform produces a sharper, snappier recoil character compared to delayed blowback systems like the SIG MPX or roller delay designs. The bolt mass required to slow the action down transfers more felt impulse to the shooter. It's manageable, but it's noticeable. In 2026, a large portion of PCC buyers are running suppressors, and that's where straight blowback designs lose ground further. Blowback guns vent more combustion gas rearward through the action, which means more gas and carbon blowback into shooter's face when a can is attached. Ergonomics also draw some criticism. The safety lever placement, grip angle, and some of the control geometry feel dated compared to newer platforms designed with suppressor-ready and optics first buyers in mind. Aftermarket parts exist to address most of these issues, but that's another line item on the build cost, and buyers start doing that math and pivoting to something that feels right straight out of the box. The Scorpion isn't a bad PCC. It got caught by regulation, flooded by used inventory, and outpaced by a market that moved towards softer shooting, suppressor-optimized designs. Street price, approximately $89.91, $0.99. Ruger 57. The Ruger 57 sells a specific dream, and it sells it well on paper. Low recoil, flat trajectory, a sci-fi-looking pistol that holds more rounds than most full-size 9mm. When Ruger brought the 5.728mm cartridge down to a price point that didn't require a second mortgage, the idea made sense. The standard model carries an MSRP of $549 on Ruger's own site, ships optics ready via an adapter plate setup, and a 201 capacity variant exists through distributor exclusives. Stack all that together, and it reads like a legitimate value proposition in a caliber that FN had been charging a premium for since the beginning. Hay race where the dream runs into real life. The 5.728mm cartridge costs more to feed than 9mm, by a margin that matters. Practice ammunition in 5.7 regularly runs around 0.60-0.70 per round at standard retail, compared to budget 9mm that you can still find in the 0.20-0.25 per round range if you buy in bulk. That gap turns a fun range session into a math problem. A shooter running 200 rounds on a Saturday afternoon is spending $120,140 in 5.7 versus $4,050 in 9mm. Do that math a few times, and the Ruger 57 quietly becomes a once-a-month gun instead of regular carry or training platform. And when people aren't shooting something regularly, they're not impulse buying it at the counter either. The competition also caught up. FN isn't the only 5.7 name anymore. More pistols chambered in 5.728mm enter the market. Prices got pressure across the board, and buyers started asking the uncomfortable but fair question, what problem does this solve that a quality full-size 9mm doesn't already handle? For most people, the honest answer is not much. The Ruger 57 is a reliable, flat-shooting pistol that does exactly what it was designed to do. It just lives in a niche where ammo economics and practical necessity work against it every single day. Street price, approximately $499,579. Beretta APX A1. Walk into enough gun shops in 2026 and you'll find the Beretta APX A1 sitting in the case like it's waiting for someone to remember it exists. That's not because it's a problem gun. The APX A1 runs a 4.25-inch barrel in the full-size configuration, ships on a polymer frame with a modular chassis system that allows serialized component swaps, Features front and rear aggressive slide serrations that give you real purchase in wet or glove conditions. And Beretta pushed the A1 refresh hard into the optics-ready market with a factory mill slide that accepts common footprint red dots without an adapter. Reliability is not the headline here. Fit and finish are generally clean because Beretta has been building service pistols long enough to know how to do it right. The problem is ecosystem depth. Striker-fired 9mm is the most crowded aisle in American gun retail, and when a buyer is standing at the counter with one purchase in mind, they're measuring everything against a Glock, the SIG P320, the Walther PDP, and the SWMP. Those platforms carry holster selections that fill entire walls. Their aftermarket trigger, magazine, and small part support is so deep that enthusiasts spend years exploring it. The APX A1 doesn't have that infrastructure yet. Holster options are thinner. Aftermarket support for triggers and internals is limited compared to the big dogs. And that matters more than people expect, because a significant portion of handgun buyers purchase a pistol and immediately start modifying it even when nothing is actually broken. Beretta's own pricing behavior compounds a problem. Frequent rebates and promotional pricing on APX models train buyers to wait. If a customer believes the price will drop next month, the gun stays in the case today. Dealers feel that cycle directly. The APX A1 ends up being the pistol that makes complete sense on a spec sheet and gets passed over in real life not because it failed, but because it never gave buyers a loud enough reason to choose it over something with a deeper support, network, and a longer track record. Street price, approximately $499,599. None of the guns on this list are junk. That's the point. The Taurus GX4 and Kimber R7 Mako got hit by safety recalls that stuck to their reputations longer than the repairs took to complete. The Canik MC9 stumbled out of the gate with early cycling issues in a segment that punishes hesitation. The Daniel Defense DDM4V7 is a premium rifle in a market that stopped paying premium prices the moment the panic ended. The CZ Scorpion Evo 3 got caught in a regulatory whiplash it didn't cause, then got undercut by its own used market. The Ruger 57 lives in a niche where ammo cost quietly kills enthusiasm. And the Beretta APX A1 is a solid service pistol that never found its voice in the loudest aisle in American retail. Bad timing, bruised trust, or a market that moved on. That's the real reason these guns are sitting in 2026.